Hi, my name is Daniel and welcome to morning practice. So the purpose of these sessions is to give you a sort of gentle way to ease you into every day. They can also serve as a nice mobility room on its own, so even if you can do them midday or maybe even in the evening. Okay, so I'm gonna guide you through all the gentle exercises. I might give you also some progressions and regressions depending on your level. Okay, so if you're doing it for the first time, just make sure you have a little bit of space. It doesn't need to be a lot of space. Make sure you're barefoot. And for now, we're not going to use any equipment, okay? Unless you struggle with the squat and you know your ankles are not as flexible, that means you can potentially use some ankle weights underneath your heels or a couple of thin books or small weights underneath your heels, okay? But we're gonna get to that part later on. So making sure you have a little bit of space, you're gonna find yourself in this comfortable standing upright stance. And we're gonna always start these sessions with just allowing ourselves to tune in to our body, to check in before we start to do all the reps and sets and all the motions. So feet comfortably apart, soften your knees, relaxed posture. Then just allow yourself to gently close your eyes. I'm going to spend a few moments in this position. And this is going to be a good opportunity for you to bring the awareness and to notice your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it deep? Is it shallow? How much tension are you holding in your belly or your chest? Just remember, there's no right or wrong. We're simply trying to establish baseline. And as you're noticing your breath, gently start bringing awareness to your energy levels today. How are you feeling today? How energized, sleepy, excited, happy, maybe sad. And again, there's no right or wrong, simply notice. And lastly, let's gently start scanning our bodies from the top of our head all the way down towards the feet. Notice any excessive residual tension, any pain. So if possible, if you notice any tension, just try to think about that tension melting away. Try to relax your jaw. If you need to open your mouth a little bit as you do that, you can. Try to relax your shoulders, but with still keeping this upright position. And again, remind yourself of relaxing your belly. Notice your lower back. Your hips, your knees. And lastly, notice the feeling of weight in between the floor and your feet. So you want to find the least amount of energy to stay in this relaxed upright position. So finding efficient position, but with staying upright. And lastly, for this part, we're going to do 3 times deep long inhalation in through your nose. And let it go. Again. One time. Allow yourself to slowly open your eyes. Welcome back into the room. Allow your eyes and your vision, your focus to adjust to the light. And then while staying in this position, just gently start moving your head all the way to the left. How far can you go to the left? Slowly, slowly, slowly. With keeping the focus and refocus in your eyes. And then gently going back through the middle, noticing all the details in your environment as you go all the way to the right side. If you turn your hips a little bit, that's fine. Just keep your feet grounded. Going back to the middle, all the way up. What's the tiniest detail that you can notice and focus with your eyes? And back through the middle, gently looking all the way down. And back into the middle. Wow. So next focus, we're going to play with limitations. So our feet are going to stay as you wish, maybe slightly wider, as long as you have stable base of support. If your feet are too narrow, you might lose your balance. Nothing wrong with that. Just allow it to do it yours safely. Or you're going to go slightly wider. What I would recommend, maybe slightly wider than your hip width. You're going to soften your knees, you're going to relax your arms. What we're going to start doing, we're going to gently start leading with our heads. So think about, visualize Chinese dragon. So as you move your head in one direction, your spine is going to follow. It can start very slowly, it can start very gently, small range of motion, or depending how you feel or your limitations. And then you're gradually going to expand, going further and further. Okay? I'm going to give you a few cues, few tips as we do this. Just remember, your feet are stuck to the floor. Everything else is allowed to move. You can go forward fold, you can even go down into the squat. Keep your arms for now relaxed. If they follow a little bit, that's fine. Just remember, head leads. Keep coming back to your breath as well. Let's begin. Keeping breath relaxed. Head gently goes, creating this very slow, almost lazy-like wave. Almost like a curious baby, just exploring the environment, moving the head. You can even initiate this only with your neck. Up and then down. Try to have this smoothness of motion, or at least that's the intention. So eyes kind of get drawn to something, and then the rest of the body follows. Just remember, everything is connected. So even though you initiate the motion through your head and your spine follows, it is going to affect your hips, your knees, and your ankles. So now if you're starting to feel more and more comfortable with this, start to expand the range, maybe going into a little bit of arch, going slightly more to the side, slightly more to the side bend. Just remember, head leads, rest of the body follows. Try not to hold your breath, keep it relaxed. Remember, it can be a very small range of motion, especially if this feels a little bit awkward. Always ease yourself gradually into doing more and more. And now really, if you can, for those of you who are comfortable with it, start really going further and further. Playing with tempo, slightly faster, and slowing down, being very soft. Rounding, arching, twisting. Sometimes it can be very easy to transition from leading with your head to leading with your hips, and there's nothing wrong with that. Try to keep coming back to your breath, ease of motion, and your breath. Then gently, 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 you're gonna start fading out. Don't just suddenly stop. Slowly, slowly, slowly fade out. Just give yourself a few moments to settle in your breath. Beautiful. And the next one, we're gonna focus a little bit more on the arms. So again, having really rich visualization. So really think about being under the water, or you gently, gently floating somewhere, or being without any gravity. So your arms are gently floating. Think about articulating your shoulder, your elbows, your hands, your fingers. And again, as everything is connected, this is going to affect the rest of your structures as well, and that's perfectly fine. Just remember, you're initiating the motion with your arms. They can be close, they can be expanded, one can be down, one can be up, so playing with opposites. Just remember, try not to create too much tension. Keep it soft. Keep coming back to your breath. Keep having that intention of ease of motion. Okay? So let's give it a go. So the easiest one to think about would be you're under the water. It's very soft, very smooth. Don't forget, you have your elbows, you have your wrists, you have your fingers. Dancer, yogi, if you want to do something more expressive, be free to do so. If you're not as comfortable with this, you can just be very small in the range of motion, starting here, get used to the position. Gradually. Further and further. If it leads into something else, like a twisting in your spine and your hips, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Keep coming back to that intention of ease of motion and keeping your breath relaxed. Again, you can do down in the squat if you wish, or you can stay upright or in this mid-level. Keep coming back to your breath as an anchor. Think about maybe leading a few motions with your elbow. One elbow. Maybe relaxing one arm, just focusing on one single arm. Pushing the air gently, pushing the water gently. So rather than thinking of in linear motions, up and down, rotating, you want to explore as many possible new movements, new motion that you can, as our shoulder is the joint that has the biggest range of motion in the body. And then slowly, slowly, slowly fade out. Beautiful. Settle in with your breath. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna focus as we're going from the top all the way down. We already kind of covered spine, shoulders. Now we're gonna focus on the hips, pelvis, single leg. So depending on your level, you can do the next drill, either with both legs standing, exploring going as deep as you can. Maybe this is your level, then going up. Maybe placing something underneath your heels just so you can go a bit deeper. So staying with both feet on the floor. But I would strongly encourage you to start, to try at least, playing with a single leg balance. So you're gonna weight shift first to one leg. I'm gonna give you two options. Well, option number one, if you're comfortable with staying on one leg. So we're not gonna be too crazy with our gaze. So fixate on one or 2 points, or maybe keep the soft gaze, soft focus, keeping the ground rules, which is gonna be this. So your foot that's on the floor is stuck to the floor, so no shuffling. So really be honest to yourself. Knee of the supporting leg, it's much easier and you're gonna be much more stable if you allow that knee to be soft, as opposed to locking it into position. Last one, if you suddenly lose your balance, so your body is actually going to learn something if you allow yourself to just gently, safely lose balance and then reset, as opposed to non-stop tapping with the floor with your foot. So try not to do that, really resist the urge to do that, okay? So option number one leg is going to be sort of floating lazily around the space, and then keep coming back to that ease of motion and your breath. Working in your hip, working in your knee, working with your ankle and your toes. Notice, think about bringing awareness in all the joints. We're just going to explore the space around. If you really struggle with the balance, for example, especially if you have smooth floor, you can either be barefoot or in your socks, and then just gently having the same intention, but drawing the shapes, small shapes around with this free leg. So that leg is on the floor, but there's not too much weight, okay? So let us begin. We're gonna start first with the left leg, or the right one, depending how you wanna go. I always like to start with my weaker leg first. So weight shift first, leave the other leg off the floor, and then just gently start moving that leg across the space. So we have quite a bit of range in the hip, hopefully. So you can really start playing around, always starting very softly. Maybe you're gonna be starting from your hip first. Arms any way you want them. I really like them to be around just to help me if necessary with the counterbalance. Then it's just hopefully getting more and more comfortable with this. You can either stay in this fairly low position, or you can start gently lifting the foot, lifting the leg a little bit higher. Nothing too crazy. Higher. And then you have all this space around that you're free to explore. This one might be a little bit more tough than the previous drills, as we're standing on one leg. So you're gonna notice your calves working, your ankle working. Keep coming back to your anchor, to your breath. If you put yourself out of balance for a little bit, even better, as we're training our vestibular system. As we know, as we get older, balance is rapidly deteriorating, so it makes sense to train it a bit more often. Notice how you're gripping the floor with your toes, maybe creating this lovely arch. If the rest of your body, or your torso, goes down a little bit, it's fine. Allow your body to react. Notice my upper body is counter-reacting whatever this leg is doing. 10 more seconds. Just remember, at any point if this is too hard, simply place this other leg on the floor without too much weight. 3, 2, 1, beautiful. Give yourself a few moments. As you weight shifting towards the other leg. So remember, this one is not easy, so if you really struggle with the balance, just place the other leg on the floor and have a little bit more weight on that leg, but still try to move around smoothly. So other leg, weight shift. Just get used to the position. Keep coming back to your breath. Make sure you're not tensing your midsection. Nothing wrong with that right now, but this is not what we're looking for. And then start to explore the space with the other leg. And rather, try to challenge yourself rather than having your eye gaze non-stop at one position. Be free to explore a little bit, to maybe look towards left as your leg moves around. Maybe looking up. This might get super tricky if you want a bit more challenge. That's only for those of you who are comfortable with this. Be free to start exploring, not focusing on anything, moving your head and your eyes around. Keep going. If you haven't, start exploring a little bit more height if you can, going further forward, further back. But try not to turn it into super heavy squat, single leg squat. Keep it still soft. Or even if it doesn't look soft, it doesn't feel soft, that's the intention, starting intention. If you're not really a person that has vivid imagination, it can always even be helpful. Think about drawing shapes, writing a name with your foot in the air, or someone else's name. 10 more seconds. And gently allow yourself to stand down. Allow your breath to settle. So if you're anything like me, this felt quite, to a degree, sometimes even maybe intense, I would say. If you think of it, it really makes sense to train our lower body a little bit more, as these structures where we're basically walking, we're sitting. It makes sense to work, to pay attention and bring a bit more awareness into mobility, strength, flexibility, and so on. Okay, especially of the lower body. Okay, next one is going to be a little bit more loose, a little bit less strengthy, let's call it like that, so even less tension. So both feet are going to be grounded. Now make sure you have a little bit more space around yourself for your arms, as we're going to do some arm swings. But my intention is not to initiate the motion through my arms. It's actually through my chest, through my torso, as I'm looking gently behind myself. So every time I turn around, I'm going to pick a point behind myself. My arms are simply going to follow because they're going to be completely relaxed. Okay? So if you're kind of holding some tension, just give yourself maybe a few little bounces through your knees, just making sure your arms are relaxed. So you're creating almost this ripple effect through your arms. Okay? Feet comfortably apart. Let's start gently. One side, other side. So as I just turn my head, If my arms are completely relaxed, my arms are following. You can soften your knees a little bit, sort of giving a little bit of weight into the floor. And then depending on your energy levels and how you feel, you can start going a little bit further, a little bit faster, only if you wish. So we're quite used to creating lots of tension in our arms, especially if you're doing lots of strength work. But sometimes it can be very tricky to actually get rid of the tension and being completely relaxed. Keep coming back to your breath. And gently, as I mentioned before, don't suddenly stop. Gradually fade out. How smoothly can you transition back to stillness? Beautiful. So next one, as we create this mini bounce through our knees, okay? It's going to find a rhythm. So we're having this gentle bounce. It doesn't need to be a big bounce. As you're having this mini bounce, finding a rhythm. So each bounce, you're going to have one arm swing, going from the shoulder flexion into shoulder extension. Up to you how far you want to go. You can start very softly, okay? Keeping your breath relaxed. Swing forwards, swing backwards. Swing forwards, swing backwards. Each bounce, one swing. Keep coming back to breath. If you feel quite playful and more energized at this point, you can start adding maybe a little bit more bounce to your knees, a little bit more arm swing. Same thing, one forwards, one backwards. Let's see how quickly can you switch. So just think about walking or running or long strides. One forwards, one backwards. Continue with the same bounce to your knees. Use the momentum. So when your arms are in this higher point, try not to, on purpose, really bringing them down. Use the gravity, use the momentum. So there's this almost like a very brief moment of suspension in the air. They're almost floating. Keep coming back to your breath. And gradually start slowing down. Beautiful. As always, allow your few moments for your breath to settle. Now we're slowly going to start transitioning onto the floor, but we're going to do variation. You reach arms as wide as we can, inhaling in through your nose, placing one hand on top of each other, gently pushing the air down as we exhaling. I'm going to show you from this angle. I'm rolling my spine down. If you notice a bit more stiffness in your lower back and your hamstrings, bend your knees a little bit more. I'm going to pause in this forward fold position, and then I'm going to roll my spine back up, reach again, and let's go. In your own pace. Gently rolling the spine. If you keep losing the track of your breath, don't worry, that's the anchor. Just remember, inhaling on your way up, exhaling on your way down. And we're gonna do one more. We're gonna finish in squatting position. So first forward fold perhaps, rather than jumping straight into squat. Just allow yourself a few moments to notice breath in this position. So again, bend your knees as much as you need to, especially if you have tight hamstrings. Arms are either relaxed here, or you can gently hold your elbows. Head and neck relaxed. And then from there, allow yourself, help yourself with your hands as much as you need to go all the way down into deep squat. Okay, so now if you really struggle to stay here, if you're falling back, think about, that's the intention number one, drawing the knees forward, so really engaging this tibialis anterior muscle in front of your shin as you're trying on purpose to lift your feet up, simultaneously drawing the knees forward. Obviously this can be tricky. Be free to use a couple of small weight plates or maybe books underneath your heels, just as we want to prioritize hips being as low as possible rather than staying here, okay? So put something underneath your heels, then come back to this one. So when you get accustomed to this position, this deep squat, which is beautiful, natural human resting position, and we should all work towards being comfortable here. I'm not too fussy about foot position. Just think about maybe your knee are following line of your big toes. Maybe that's going to be slightly more to the side, maybe it's going to be more neutral. That's fine. They don't need to be perfectly facing in one direction, okay? So as you get comfortable with this position, we're going to start doing this. Think about left hand grabbing the right ankle, okay? And then as you push with your left shoulder, the inner part of your left knee out, you're going to reach with your right arm as high as possible, noticing the twist in your spine. Try to keep your hips low. Pausing for 1 or 2 seconds. Switching, same thing, other way around. So lift up, reach, pause, switch again. Look towards reaching arm, switch again. And let's do one more time each side. And last switch. Beautiful. So now for the next one, we're going to start loading the knee and the toes, driving the knee forward. Common mistakes. This is a nice drill for internal rotation of the hip. We're not doing that. So think about, I'm trying to sit on my heels and notice how I'm helping myself with my hands and stretching my toe. So sitting on my heel, gently driving the knee forward. You're going to notice the stretch on your toe primarily, if you're anything like me. Back to the squat, add the knee forward, stretching my toes, okay? So I'm not putting too much weight on the knees. So if this is super hard, you can lean your torso forward, you can put more weight into your hands. If this is easy, keep your hands behind your back. So there's always something to progress. And keep switching between these two. Don't rush. A beautiful sun coming out. Keep coming back to your breath. Notice the differences between your sides. Be all perfectly asymmetrical. I always struggle with my left toe, left big toe. Let's do one more time each side. Beautiful. And come to a stop. And sometimes it's always also good to try to find a little bit of relaxation in this position. So depending how deep you are, just think about relaxing your arms on your knees and just bouncing a little bit in the squat. So resetting your breath. Keep coming back to your breath. Maybe going from side to side a little bit. Really getting used to, comfortable with this position. Okay. Next one, we're gonna go into this side lunge. So one foot is forward. So let's say so everyone is on the same page. Left leg is gonna be forward. This other leg, in this case my right leg, it doesn't need to be straight, and if you struggle, knee can even be on the floor. So I'm looking for this, placing this other hand on the side, allowing my hips first sink down a little bit, okay? Just get used to this position, feeling the stretch in the front of your hips. And now we're gonna do 5 big circles with the opposite arm. So if my right hand is on the floor, I'm gonna start making a smaller circle. And now each consecutive circle is gonna be bigger and bigger. You can start following. No rush. 2 more. Keeping your hips low. I might add 1 more just to have 6, as it feels very nice. Beautiful. And switch. Same thing other side. Allow your hips to sink down first. Get used to the position. Just stretch on your hips. And then from there, 6 circles. Notice the twist in your spine, using your shoulders, keeping the stretch in your hips. Keeping coming back to your breath. Probably did 1 more extra, nothing wrong with that. Lovely. Okay, and from there, the last one for this part. For some people it might be very heavy. This Seiza, amazing position. You're gonna notice heavy stretch on the front of your ankles. So some of you might prefer to tuck their toes, that's fine. But try to play between both. So tucking your toes and maybe and this one where you're straightening, plantiflexing your feet. Okay, so shins are together. Just gonna get used to this position. If you can't go super deep and you need a small cushion in between your calves and your hamstrings, that's also fine. But what we're gonna do now, as you get so hopefully accustomed to this position, you're gonna gently start leaning back. If this causes your shins to lift off the floor and your knees, fine, but that's not priority. And as also, you can help yourself with your hands to sort of give a little bit more weight to make it slightly easier, okay? So let's do this for 5 reps. Gently leaning back. Obviously, if you're comfortable with this, no help with your hands. Leaning back, pausing for a second or 2, resetting, and again. Just remember, it's very intense on the ankles, and it is intense. Just sitting in this position is already more than enough. Gonna do 1 more. Beautiful. And come to a stop. And while we're in this position, again, come back to your breath. Notice your breath. Allow it to settle. And as you're going to start putting some pressure on your wrists for the next one, you can either go in kneeling position now if this is uncomfortable. I'm still going to stay in this position. You're going to bring your arms in front, and we're just going to start with some wrist circles. Okay, so keeping your elbows straight. If you can, also try to, as you're moving your wrist, try to articulate each finger if you can. Notice how far can you go in each direction with your hands. Stick to one direction for now. Change direction. Really bringing awareness sort of your eye gaze, soft gaze staying in the middle of your hands. Two more. And come to stop. Let's shake our wrists a little bit, sideways, gently. Up and down. Lovely. So the next task, as we're nearing towards the end slowly, you're gonna go in downward dog. So you're gonna go in this position, lifting your hips up. If you need to bend your knees a little bit, that's fine. If you need to place your heels on the floor, if you can, that's also fine. You can also play with distance, how far you want to go with your feet over your hands. But the idea here is you're keeping your hips upright, keeping this elongated position with your arms. Think about taking the opposite arm, in this case my right arm, and reaching as close as I can towards my left knee or towards my left ankle. The ankle is probably going to be a bit harder. Make sure you're stable here. Find this twisting position. Pause for a second or two. Back into initial position and switch to the other side. Finding this lovely twist. Also going to notice nice stretch in your hamstrings. Shoulders, rib cage. Keep coming back to your breath. Depending on your level of this twist, might be a bit more, might be a bit less. You might even struggle to reach your feet. That's also fine. Just think about that being intention. Trying to keep your arms straight. Nice. Let's do one more time each side. Lovely. Beautiful. Bring your knees closer to the floor, on the floor. The next one, you're gonna start with basic cat-cow. So you're gonna, majority of you probably know this one. So you're gonna tuck your chin to the chest, you're gonna round your spine, engaging your abs a little bit more, and then you're gonna reverse, arch, and extend. Keep transitioning between these two. And now we're going to add a little bit of rotation. So if you think about this being central axis going from your head all the way down towards your tailbone, through your spine, we're going to pick a direction and we're going to rotate. So think about 4 positions. So arch, twisting to opening your rib cage towards one side, rounding, tucking your chin to the chest, and then twisting, opening your rib cage towards the other side. So it's going to look like this. If you need to bend your elbows, you can. Don't forget to include your neck. So let's pick a direction first. Let's do a few reps in each direction. So let's give it a go. So how far can you move your spine and your rib cage in each direction? Notice your head position, your neck. As your spine is going in one direction, head is going in the opposite. Change direction. Two more. And come to a stop. Beautiful. I don't know about you, but I love this. And the very last that we're gonna do in this floor position before we finish with a little bit of shake, as always, we're gonna go in this position. So this might be a little bit more intense on the wrists. Maybe if you have hyperextended elbows, so too much going in this direction, you can always think about. It's good to strengthen that range, but maybe think about exploring a little bit, doing a bit of flexion, a bit of extension. So hands, depending on your wrist mobility, this might be too intense, maybe sideways or maybe going back. Feet, either closer together, I would say maybe slightly further apart. So the main position, what we want to do, about bringing our hips as far back as possible, maybe past the line of our hands. You're gonna try to push down into the floor, lifting your hips off the floor, your heels are still on the floor. So that's step number one. Step number two, you're gonna gently bring your hips through and hips over as you're squeezing your shoulder blades simultaneously, opening your chest, lifting your hips, squeezing your glutes, pausing for a second, going back. So you're gonna keep transitioning between these two. Okay? So let's give it a go. Let's say 6 to 8 reps, up to you, while pausing for a second or two in each position. This is going to be a little bit more tough, so notice your breath. Again, think about ease of motion, even if the movement is a bit harder. Prepare, and let's go. So lifting up, pushing, lifting up. You don't need to hyperextend your neck. Whatever feels good. Nice, and I'm going to do one more. And come to a stop. Beautiful. You're going to find your way into standing position. You can go first in the squat if you wish, rolling your spine all the way up, or any way you prefer, okay? Get used to being in this standing position. Maybe it can be a little bit dizzying going up. It's perfectly fine. Get used to the position. And then we're just gonna, as we usually do on these sessions, at least we're gonna teach them in person, we're gonna finish with a little bit of shake. Okay, so we're gonna revisit that bounce to your knees. There's also option where you're lifting your heels and bouncing through your ankles. If this is something that you would like to explore, you can. Or you can just bounce through your knees. So each bounce, notice how it creates ripple effect in my arms. So a couple of variations. Just static position. Static, I mean standing here, maybe going from side to side while you're keeping your feet grounded. Your arms are following. Maybe just arms going around. Maybe leaning forward into a little bit of forward fold. Maybe going on one side, maybe going on the other side, and maybe going even into a little bit of arch. So you're free to explore. During the shake, think about going back to your breath even more so than before. In through your nose, long inhalations and then long exhalations. The louder the better. Okay? So let's start with the shake. If you wish to close your eyes, you can. So you're sort of pushing, creating the force with your feet into the floor as you create that pulse, ripple effect traveling through the rest of your body. gradually start coming back to stop gently. As always, don't suddenly stop. And I would really encourage you to allow yourself to close your eyes. Then we're gonna go back to that, bringing that awareness similar to what we did at the beginning of the session. Trying not to change too much or anything, just noticing. And especially noticing if there's any difference between the baseline when you started, the body check-in, and the way you feel, and the baseline that you created just now. Maybe you feel better, maybe you feel the same, hopefully slightly better, whatever better means. While keeping your eyes closed, just give yourself a big smile, one huge smile. Notice how smiling affects you. And then you're going to do one deep long inhalation in through your nose. Let it go. Allow your eyes to gently open. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this. I did teach a couple of these sessions on some other channels and more than a few in person. So thank you for joining me on my channel. So there's gonna be plenty of these with some similar things each sessions, but every session there's gonna be something new. I'm also planning to introduce some shorter mobility form videos for specific joints, specific areas. Also sort of movement snacks that can help you, hopefully help you feeling better throughout the day, okay? So that's enough from me. Thank you so much again. Any feedback, any comments, be free to put in a comment or send me a message. I would really appreciate that. So hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day or evening and see you soon. Bye bye.